Hi everyone, Tiffany here. Welcome to my quilting live. If you are new to my channel, don't forget to go down here to the side and there's a red thing that says subscribe. Hit that button and a bell will pop up. You can hit that too to get notifications when I'm live because that's what I do. So anyway, yeah, welcome. I do not have this set up yet to see if anybody's here or saying hi. So obviously, you're just going to have to give me a second while I tell you that it is raining outside. It's been raining pretty much all evening here in Havasu. It's not like a heavy pour, but it's like raining just like the regular good rain, which is good because we needed the rain. So, this takes forever to do. Obviously, Saturday Night Live is kind of my thing, coming on here and showing you guys how to sew on a Saturday. Okay, volume off. So, hi Vicky, hi Diane. Anyway, so the title says, yes, it's Saturday night and I'm live because we're sewing. I'm sewing. You could be sewing too because that's just what we do. I am uh, making what the title says a 20-inch star block. And I don't know, you can't see it, so I'm going to pull it down. And I am going to show ya this big, huge beast. So I'm making star blocks, and they're pretty. So here's one, and here's, yep, don't mind the thread, it's just everywhere. I have like a bazillion projects going on at once, but that's how I am. And there's number two. Hi, Michelle. So yeah, this is what I am making, and I figured I would come on and show everybody how to make it, which kind of just totally takes away what I was going to do for Sew Sunday, but I wanted to sew. I didn't want to get too far without showing you. So I figured I'll just, you know what, let's do it while people are awake still on a Saturday night, right? So let me hook these back up here so that they can stay out of my way momentarily. I'm trying to keep organized while I make it. So my blocks kind of just hang on my little clips here and they stay out of my way. Yes, they're Batiks is what I'm using. So I'm going to show you what I'm using to make this project, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So I'm making 20 blocks. They're 20-inch blocks, and they are going to be sashed with 1-inch sashing. Well, 1.5-inch cuts. You guys know the deal. And let's see, by the time I'm finished hooking 4 across by 5 down with sashing, it's going to be about 83 by 103. Yes, that's pretty big. So it's going to be big. But then you know me, I make big quilts. So 12 where you are, Diane. 1 where you are, Vicky. Well, it's 11:17 here, and it's 10:17 where Michelle lives, because I can already tell you that. She's an hour behind me. So she has plenty of time to go. All right, guys, so sorry, I was reading your message, Michelle. I just saw. All right, so I'm going to grab what I need, my diamonds. And then I'm going to show you what I used here. Ooh. Okay, so I don't know how many of you guys know this, but you can go to Tuesday Morning and buy fabric. I don't think there's Tuesday Mornings everywhere, but when Tuesday Morning had these right here, they're batik rolls, and there's 26-inch rolls here, or 26-inch strips. So I decided, what can I make with these? So I came up with making a very large diamond quilt because I got 2 cuts from the one roll. So I took 2 rolls. Now 2 rolls, obviously 2 jelly rolls makes a pretty large quilt, you know, with some backing fabric. So 2 of these is bigger than jelly roll. So I decided to take 2 of these and see what I can do. So we're going to take 2 of these find them at Tuesday Morning. Our Tuesday Morning ran out of these ones, and now they do have the 2.5-inch strips in these Batiks. But yeah, go down to Tuesday Morning, find these things, and that's what I use, is 2 of those. And then obviously yardage, lots and lots of yardage. And then I took those strips and I cut them down into 4.5-inch strips, leaving me with 1.5-inch, because from a 6-inch strip, 4.5 and 1.5 equals 6. So I have me 40 1.5-inch strips here for the sashing and my first border, which I'm going to make it wider, obviously, because you guys know how I do that. But if I didn't do this and I just had sashing and the blocks, that's the size I told you, the 83 by 103. That's just with sashing and no borders. Obviously, I'm going to make borders, duh. So for now, I cut some yardage. And I cut myself a ton of diamonds from all those 4.5-inch strips. Now, if you guys don't have one of these templates, and I know you probably can't see it, but it is a diamond template that I just so happen to have. It is in centimeters, unfortunately, but it is a 45-degree angle, and that's all we care about. But you can also cut diamonds like these from a 45-degree angled ruler. Any ruler that has a 45-degree angle right here. So normally I would show you guys how to cut this, but it's pretty self-explanatory with your 4.5-inch strip. I obviously had them stacked. You lay your ruler on here and you cut these, because this is 4.5 from here to here. So I would cut that normally, and I don't even know if you can see me. Let's see. Yeah. Or you would take and start yourself with a 45-degree angle, you know what I mean? So that would be straightening it out. Now that that is straight, I would go to the 4.5-inch line, slide it down to where my 45-degree angle is on the bottom of the strip or the top of the strip, and my 4.5-inch line is at that seam right there, and then I would cut right here. So I'm not going to do that because these pieces I'm using for something totally different, for a little side table runner project. That's why I like having extra. So yeah, you can use the long ruler or you can have a different square ruler. As long as you have a 45-degree angle, you line your ruler up on that. Your first cut from the angle is going to be lining up with your angle. So that's how you would make diamonds, and once you cut that, it becomes a diamond. So just showing you that. But I'm going to pull this. This is my box of scraps. So this is plenty of scraps here in this little box to make a table runner. So yeah, yardage wise, so far I've used 2.5 yards. Why? Because we need our side setting triangles. Well, technically, you guys, I don't know if you remember, I've done this before. I'm going to lay this out so I can explain it, I guess. Let's see, who else is on here? Hi, Sonia. Okay, so I'm going to make myself a star. I need 8 diamonds, and you guys know I love diamonds. I love diamonds. I don't know why I love working with diamonds, but I just love working with diamonds. So you need 8 diamonds per block. And you'll see what I mean. I'm just organizing them in a pleasing manner. I'm trying to make them all different. I don't want them all to be exactly the same. That's one thing about this. I don't want anything the same. I want them all different. I'm going to swap these two. And I'm going to swap these two. There we go. And I'm going to swap these two. See, it gives you a chance to just move things around. There we go. Alright, so when I say side triangles, here we would have a square, here is a square, here is a square, so on and so forth. This square out here, this square out here, this one out here, and this one out here, these are 7-inch blocks. cut on the diagonal. So I cut a bunch of 7-inch strips. 7-inch strips. Let's see how well you can see this. And then I cut them one time on the diagonal. That is it. So when they go on here, you guys seen me build an 8-pointed star before, they sit like this. So you need 4 per every block. And you always wonder how I get my numbers. Well, I measure bigger always because I like to make sure that I always have enough on the outside. I don't like to be pinching it and lose my star points. I hate losing my star points. Now these sections right here, they're not the same as these. These sections are 7.5-inch squares cut on the diagonal both ways. So let me grab 4 pieces so that you can see. This is a lot of bias edges, by the way, too. So here's a 7.5-inch block. So I cut a bunch of 7.5-inch strips. Here's my 7.5-inch block, cut on the diagonal both ways. So when you take them over here, like so, you place them just right, they go in. I keep the fabric all facing the same direction. They go in right here. And sometimes you gotta turn things until you find the place it's supposed to sit. So that's what we're making. Now I always lay, when I do any kind of 8-pointed stars or any diamond project, I always lay it in front of me. I hope I'm not confusing you guys, but I always lay it in front of me, and I'm so sorry. Let me see when I sit how far my head is, because I really like when you guys can see my face. Oh, that should be good. You just can't see that bottom corner over there, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. Hello, Lewis. All right, so what we are going to do, like I said, we're keeping our project in front of us. These are 4.5-inch diamonds right here on the 45-degree angle. These are 7-inch blocks in the corners, all 4 corners, cut on the diagonal once. These are 7.5-inch squares cut on the diagonal both ways for the center, I guess what you would say, it's center closings. So, and what I keep next to me is a pair of scissors, because we're going to be trimming a lot of dog ears off, and pins, because this is one project that is nice to throw a pin in if you feel the need for it, and sometimes I do feel the need, so let's get to it. And I do have to say, working with batiks is easy because you actually you don't have to at all get up and go back and forth to the iron, because finger pressing is amazing on batiks. Like when I first started working with them long ago, I didn't like the way they feel, but I do like the way they press and lay perfectly flat, and I do like the quilting, the way the quilting looks on batiks. I don't know why, it just looks amazing. So I do like batiks, but they are quite pricey. So we're going to start by grabbing one piece right here. We're going to work with this section right here, then this section, then this section. This is a section, that's a section, that is a section, that is a section. There we go. So now we have 8 sections. This is how it works. We're going to grab this one, and I'm going to flop it right sides together on here. And I'm always, since I'm using black, you guys can see this quite well. And I'm using black thread as well, so that it contrasts well and blends, because any seams that kind of pull, you guys have seen it in quilts, you've probably had it in your quilts before. Sometimes seams, if your stitch length isn't tight enough, you can still see your thread through it. Sometimes it just happens that way, but it's hidden once it's quilted, so it's okay. But yeah, in case that happens, I'd rather just use black thread. So I'm going to hang this over. Can you see that right there? Right there? I'm going to hang it over about 1/4 inch. Anytime you piece diamonds with any other piece, you always want to hang over. hang over, hang over, hang over, any direction. So I'm going to hang that over about 1/4 of an inch. And the way to tell that it's at 1/4 of an inch is if your needle is down, your needle will actually come in that center of that V, making it perfectly 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to sew me a nice 1/4 of an inch seam down this side. And I'm going to flip it under because I want to press it towards the batik on this one. Or I should say my color. I'm going to press it towards my color because my black is just a black. Yes, 7-inch strips cut in half one time. That's for the corner sections. You need 4 per block, 4 7-inch blocks. Cut in half on the diagonal one time. Then these, the center sections, you technically need 4 or 2 blocks. They're cut 7.5-inch squares cut on the diagonal both ways. So you get 4 1/4 square triangles from it. And then you need 2 blocks per. So 2 pieces, 2 pieces, 2 pieces, and 2 pieces, which gives you 2 blocks. So you don't need as many of the 7.5-inch squares as you do of the 7-inch squares. So there's the thing. So I have this sewn on and I have it pressed to the batik side. And now I'm going to grab this corner right here, which is my 7-inch square cut in half on the diagonal one time. I'm going to flop that right sides together, and I'm going to make sure that I hang down 1/4 of an inch. See, I have a 1/4 of an inch little floppy right there. And this end is also going to hang over. But before I sew, I'm going to trim this right here straight off. And I just make a big mess of things. And I'm going to lay it nice, right sides together, depending on what kind of fabrics you're using. And I'm going to sew down this side. Keeping it nice and straight, and I am doing my best not to tug and pull because, again, these all are cut on bias, so they are very stretchy. Now this one I'm going to press to the black with my finger, and it presses quite nicely. And again, we have dog ears. We're going to get rid of those in advance before I lay it back down. So there's one piece. I'm going to do the same, but we always start with the center. When we're attaching, we always start with this first piece. So I'm going to come down here and grab this first piece, right sides together onto this diamond. I'm going to slide it to where I have a 1/4 of an inch sticking out on this side. And the reason for that is because when you flop the piece over, it helps it line straight up. If you didn't have it hanging over a 1/4 of an inch, you're going to have a slight difference in where the flush, you won't have a flush line. So that's why we hang it over with diamonds. Hi, Pamela. All right. So now I have my 1/4 of an inch sticking out down here. Now I'm going to sew this on. Trying to keep it nice and lined up, and I'm sewing a 1/4 of an inch every time. And I have my guide because, you know me, I just can't sew a straight line for the life of me. And that needle literally came out right here at this V. That's how I know. I'm used to the 1/4 inch seam, so I see it every time. So this one is going to be pressed towards, this one gets pressed towards the black. I have to think as I go because, you know, I got to remember these every time. I mean, I do make a lot of these blocks, so. I'm going to place it back down so that I know it's in the correct position. And now I'm going to put this one right sides together. Bring it over here. I do need to trim this piece off. What I'm doing is I'm just trimming right straight with the edge. And then laying this down where it's hanging over a 1/4 of an inch down there. Starting my stitch. And laying it on here. Now this one gets pressed towards the batik. Sometimes I like to look at my previous seam to make sure. So see this one? my seam, I don't know if you can see that, it didn't go, but it will be hidden in the 1/4 inch seam, but it's not perfectly straight. But right now it's gonna get hidden in the seam, but that's why you have to hang it down far enough. Like I said, I've made plenty of these, so I know how to hide it. So now I'm gonna take these 2 pieces, because they are already finished. I'm gonna put those right sides together, and this is where you would need a pin. I'm gonna line these up, and I'm gonna feel for those 2 seams. That's why we're pressing them totally different ways. I'm gonna feel for that junction, make sure that they are nested, grab myself a pin, and slide it in there next to that seam, holding it still. Come to these ends right here, and sew 1/4 inch seam all the way down. And yes, I just sewed over that neat. I'm not used to using pins, guys, so I end up sewing over them because I just like, yeah. I just do it. Now this one, I'm going to press the whole thing to one side, but I'm going to pay attention to the side when I get to the next couple. Batiks press open quite well as well if you want to press your seam open. I'm trying not to pull or tug on this when I'm finger pressing because it is a bias seam, so it's definitely moving. Now you can see how much it's shrunk down once it's sewn and you get your seams in there. But you can see right here, those seams, because we nested it with a pin, they came together perfectly. So they are nicely lined up. Now we're going to take this one right here. We're going to put those right sides together. We're going to bring it up to me. This is why I leave everything in front of me so I can see it the whole time. And if I need to look at a seam and go, hey, that one's pressed this way, the other one gets pressed another way. After a while, especially if you're making 20 blocks, after like the first 10, you'll have it down. So I'm going to put these right sides together and making sure that I have that little piece sticking out. Ah, get down in there. Just wanting to grab the fabric funny. So this one is going to be pressed to, I just looked and I had to look again, to the black. And again, it's a bias seam, obviously. So here's what it looks like. So this is the piece that I've been trimming off right here, right there. I just take and trim that right off, nice and straight. Lay it back down. And then I'm going to take this next corner piece and flop it over right sides together, making sure my 1/4 inch is hanging out on this end. And again, if your needle is down, it'll line up. When you'll know that you'll have it right is if that center of that V comes at your needle. And mine does. And this one we are pressing towards the batik with my fingy. I'm making 20 squares, 20 blocks. Oh, I better trim this off right now while I see it. It's my little dog ear. I make sure you could take them to the ruler and rotary cutter if you want, but I kind of just make my mess right here. That way I can sweep the table off into my trash bucket. So this one's finished. Now we're going to come up to this one. I'm going to pull this right sides together. Again, hanging over that little piece right here. 1/4 inch, bringing it to the machine. I put a couple stitches in, but they're lining up just right. Batiks seem to lay really, really flat. That's one good thing about them. Alright, now I gotta remember, this one is going towards the batik on this one. Aha, see? Have to think when I look at my seams. Now I'm going to trim this piece off. Nice, just one straight cut. If you have longer scissors, that would work too. I'm going to lay it back in its spot to make sure that's where I want it to go. Now I'm going to take this. These are 7-inch squares cut on the diagonal once. That's what these are. And these sections right here are 7.5-inch squares cut on the diagonal both ways. That's how this is created. And just watch the layout. When you're laying them out, you'll know when it looks like it fits and creates a square, you'll know you have it laid just right. These always lay with the diagonal going along with the seam right here. So that's how you know you got those correct. So now I'm going to take this one, right sides together, and I'm going to set it up to where this is 1/4 of an inch sticking out down here. And pretty much is like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch bigger right here at the end, usually almost on every single piece, but that's fine because in the end I'm trimming all my blocks down. So alright, this one gets pressed to the black. Okay, I'm going to trim my little dog ear off now. I'm going to lay it back in its spot. And since these two sections are made, I'm just going to hook them together. That way I don't have to do it later. And again, I'm going to nest, since this seam is pressed to the black and this one's pressed to the batik, I'm going to lay them right sides together. And this seam is holdable with your fingers. You just pull those ends together, hold that seam. And if you don't want to pin, like I usually don't, you just hold it with your fingers. I just hold my finger down on the table, lay those up under here, put my foot down, and just go. Sewing with a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. Just remember, don't tug or pull, because this whole seam right here on the my background color, my black, is 100% biased. Like, look, it's stretching. It stretches bad. So I try not to stretch it too much. And just hold it nicely. And that one was pressed this way. So that one goes this way. Yeah, okay. So this one is now being pressed to this side. The other one went to that side. So they need to create a circle in the center so that all of the seams come together just right. So again, I'm just finger pressing, just ever so slightly. So now those are done. Since these two are now done, I'm going to hook these two together. And now these two seams, I'm going to chop the dog ears off in a second. Let's do that. Now these should nest. You feel it with your fingers. They should line right up and nest all the way. Okay? So before I sew, just to make sure this was on this side like it was, I'm going to make sure it's sitting on the proper side because I was moving it around. When you move things around or you get distracted for a second, make sure you lay things back in front of you again so you know which side you're sewing on. And this seam right here should nest as well. So these are two seams that should be nesting. And again, you can pin it if you want to. I'm just going to hold it with my finger. They're lining up just right. Come right up to it. Line up the ends. And I'm going to press this one this way because it naturally is wanting to lay this way. And there we have half of a block. So now we're going to come down to this section that you guys can't even see very well, but I'll slide it up just a little so you can see it. And that I can reach it better, actually. And I really have to sneeze, but it's not coming. There we go. So you can see a little bit. Alright, so again, we're going to start with this piece right here, this whole section. We're starting with this outer piece. We're going to go right sides together. Let me look at this one. Okay, so this one's going to be pressed to the batik side. I'm going to bring it up to me, making sure. We're going to repeat all these steps all over again. making sure that I have a 1/4 inch sticking out right here at this side. Bring it down to the needle and sew along this side. Now this one gets pressed to the batik. And while I have it up here, before I even lay it down, where did my little scissors go? They fell. I'm going to chop this extra piece. See how there's an extra piece sticking out? That was a very large dog ear. We don't need that. I mean, you can leave it if you want, but this keeps things nice and bulky, and I'm trying to eliminate the bulk. Now I'm going to lay it back down, grab this piece, right sides together, make sure that I have a 1/4 inch down here sticking out. Again, these will line up, or they'll be 1/8 inch bigger. It just depends on your 1/4 inch seam. So these ones just happen to be lining up. Lay them together. This one gets pressed towards the black. And while I'm right here, I'm gonna get rid of this little dog ear. And see, made a nice straight line. You can see. So I'm going to put that back where it goes. Grab this far piece, right sides together. Remember, these are our 7.5 inch squares cut in 4s on both the diagonal, not in a square. It's from diagonal section to diagonal section. Okay? And then you can move them around until they're laying just right, because at first it'll be kind of confusing the way they lay. Until you move it around and it will lay just right. Alright. So this one's getting pressed towards the black. Get rid of this little dog ear right here. And put this one right here, right sides together. Line it up, sew on down. And now this one gets pressed towards the batik. And see, I didn't get rid of that darn corner right there. There we go. So it's kind of bulky, and I don't want that bulk. So now I'm going to lay it back down where it goes, just like that. Take these two, right sides together, and all on this one, all you have to do is match this one seam right here. Again, you can hold it here, grab yourself a pin, slide that pin in into the seam, and come out the other side, keeping them nice and straight, aligning both ends. And they should match up pretty darn close. As long as it's laying flat, that's all that matters. Go down this side. And this time I'm going to remember to pull my pin right at that edge. Because I'm tired of sewing over my pins and then not grabbing them. Alright, now I got to remember. This one gets pressed towards this way. I just have to look every time to remember. So now that one can go back down. We're almost done here with one. You like my system here that I do? Alright, so let me get rid of this little dog ear on this one. That way I can remember which way my seam goes once I get to it. And see, Pamela, or anybody, I can take any size diamond, a 45-degree diamond. I haven't perfected my 60-degree diamond yet, but I still love all diamonds. But I can take any 45-degree diamond of any size and make these ends any size we need to make them for setting them in. If you wanted to make them bigger to where you have it sitting more center in the block, I know how to make the outsides bigger to where this would be in the center and there'd be more darkness all around it, or whatever color you're using. I know how to make them as tight as you want, to where there is like barely a 1/4 inch at the edge, but I hate taking the chance of losing my points. I don't like to lose these, so I always make mine bigger. It's just, I guess, my own way of making sure I get it every time. So this is creating a 20-inch block. Once I trim it, you know, perfectly, it'll be trimmed down to 20 inches. So, all right, now we're gonna come to this one. But yeah, this 8-pointed star thing I've perfected. So now I'm going to take this right here, which was my 7.5. These are my 7.5. I don't know if you guys can even see that. Yeah, right here is my pile. It looks like a big black blotch, but these are 7.5-inch squares cut on the diagonal twice, and they are thrown in on these sections right here. Okay, and you can be like, oh, well, it was cut this way, it doesn't fit. You'll see that when it fits correctly, you know, you can move it around. They always fit with the outside towards your diamond. So I'm gonna put this right sides together. You'll know once you get the hang of it. Like I said, after the first couple blocks, it becomes like nature. I'm gonna lay it here. And I'm going to check right here. This one's towards the batik, so this one gets pressed towards the black. Obviously, I haven't perfected the pressing. I just try to remember that I'm going in a circle with my pressing. And I'm going to chop this end off right here. And if you want, if you're not using batiks, you can press in between every step with the iron. My iron just happens to be on that side of the room, which is not far. It's like 2 steps, but still. I just don't want to get up to it, because batiks press really nicely with your fingers. So now I'm going to take, it's right back in its spot. I'm going to grab this next one, come over, and when you pull it over, if you see right here that it's not going over like this, you don't want to sew it where it's just on the edge. Most blocks you would think, oh, hey, line it up and sew. That's not how it works with these, because once you open it, let me try to do this without doing that. Let's try to fold it over on a 1/4 inch seam. This is what you're going to get. Let's see if I can hold that and stay. See that difference right there? There's no way. You're missing it completely. You really have to make sure that you get those sticking out at a 1/4 inch. I learned my lesson when I first started doing diamonds, because I was obsessed with them when I first started, and yeah, after a while I was like, what the hell am I doing wrong? And I kept forgetting to keep putting that piece out. So when you're attaching any piece to any diamond, that's just remember, you got to have that little V right there. That's how you know you're getting it correct. So now this one gets pressed towards the batik. And like I said, and there's a nice, if you lay it right here on the table, it's kind of hard to lay flat, but it lays flat. It's this nice straight line, if you see down there on the bottom. So I'm going to put it back in its spot. Always put your stuff back in their spot, keeping the project in front of you. It makes it so much easier. Okay, I'm going to grab this one now, this last piece, or last step. So I'm going to slide this where there's a 1/4 inch sticking out. And if you want, you can even throw a pin in it to hold it where you need it to be once you have a 1/4 inch seam sticking out. But I would say you don't really need to, honestly. As long as your project is in front of you, you should know where your pieces are supposed to go. This one gets pressed towards the batik. Place it back down right there. Grab that one. It's a lot of motion, but it's exercise at the same time. The up and down, back and forth. Of course, I'm only using one leg to do it, but hey, I'm getting stuff done here. All right, and this one gets pressed towards the black. Now I'm going to chop this dog ear off right here. Lay that down there. I'm going to chop this little dog ear off here. I totally forgot that one. And now, while I'm waiting, while I'm doing this, I'm going to plug the iron in so that it's nice and ready. That way I can press the whole thing when it's finished. So now I'm going to take these two right sides together. Again, there's only one seam when you're putting these two together, but two seams when you're putting the other two together to match, the nesting seams. Line up the ends, hold that seam. Again, you could throw a pin in there if you want. I kind of just use the table as long as I feel it nice and flat. Then I know I'm on a roll with nesting seams properly. And just pull it to the end. They seem to lay really nice. Oops, I don't want it to stitch there. These corners, sometimes they grab, and even with the singular hole, it still seems to want to try to go in the hole. Offset just a little. Now this one gets pressed this way. I have to keep looking just because it's always good to just look and check those seams which way they're going so you know that they're going to go the correct position. You place it right here. You know you have it correct because if you put it this way, you know it's wrong. If you put it this way, you know it's wrong. You know, there's only one way you can lay these blocks. So again, we're going to put these two right sides together. Now there's two seams to nest when you do this. That's this corner right here. And those corners should just lay right together just perfectly, you know. You know you have them right because one seam, this one is pressed this way, this one is that way. So they're both the opposite way, same with these. Now you can throw pins in there if you want. You know that, just not a pinner. And then nest those right up. And just because, I'm going to start from this top end. So I'm going to flop my block like this, keeping these nice together. Just like so, right at that. Keeps wanting to move every time I move to put it down. So 1/4 inch seam right down the side, nesting that next seam up. Reline this back up. I think my cat is scratching at the door. He's like, "Let me in, Mama, let me in." Try not to stretch or pull or tug. Now, turn it this way. This seam I have pressed that way. So now this center seam, I want to press it this way, that way. It's the same as any of them. Once your seams are nice and flat, and another thing about batiks is they don't bunch up too much in the center when you put so many seams together right here, because they're a lot flatter than any other. Like if you were using just regular fabrics, cotton fabrics that weren't, you know, hand-dyed batiks, which lay really flat, these regular ones would have a big hunk right here, and you would have a big, huge thing coming together. But you can see right here, when all those seams come together, you're going to cross over this right here. So if you look on the back side, you're aiming to come at that V right here. And I don't know how well you can even see that. I'm going to show you guys just because. So let me see if I'm looking. So see this section right here? We're going to try to cross over right here with the seams. So when we're on the back side sewing it, it's hard to hold this block up to show you. I want to, don't mind my thread mess, when I cut threads it always leaves that stupid little thing. I'm going to try to come right here across that joint right there where those two are coming together. See that? Right there. So I want my thread to come right across that. Okay? So again, lay it where I make sure that they're the right way. This seam on this one is pressed that way. The center seam is coming this way. We're going to put those two right sides together. And now here's where, if you need to, do it. So I'm going to do it just because, for video's sake. And grab me some pins, and I'm going to hook these two together. They're already nesting. So I'm going to hook these two together first, and I'm going to take my pin right there in that joint, and I'm going to come this way with it, hold it together. I got all these little pieces just everywhere. And now I'm going to come over to this seam, and those two should be going two different ways. I'm going to put a pin right there as well. Stay nice and flat. We want those lined up nicely. Now I'm going to come over to this one. Again, this one's pressed to the batik, this one's pressed out to the black, so they should nest. As long as you cut all your dog ears off, you should be good. Don't even know why they call them dog ears, because you could probably call them rabbit ears, because rabbit ears stick up as well. So now I have pinned all these. So now I'm going to take it to the machine. Now you can throw it around and it shouldn't mess it up. Now you should be able to just take it over to the machine and start sewing. So I'm going to line up my little end here, put my needle down, start stitching. Right before that needle, I'm going to come right to it. I hate when it gets stuck under the presser foot and it doesn't want to come out. Come over it. And this one I'm going to come in and pull that needle out, but I'm going to hold it here until it gets to the needle, holding that seam down, because you want that seam to stay down. Now it's crossing over the spot where I wanted it to cross, coming down towards the next one, making sure it's staying aligned. Pull this one, come right to it, pull it out. It sucks that you guys can't see it close and personal, but at least you know what I'm doing here. So now this whole entire block is together. And what I'm going to do is, while I'm right here, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to push this open. Yes, I'm pressing the center seam that I just sewed open. I'm going to use my fingers because, like I said, batiks press open and lay super flat. When I get to this black, it doesn't do that. But I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to separate it before I get to the iron. That way when I lay it over at the iron, that it's going to lay nice and flat. Because there is bulk right here. No matter what fabric you do on an 8-pointed star, you're always going to have bulk. So I just press it open on this last and final seam so that it's not as bulky. Because if I leave it to one side, there's going to be a hump. And when you go to quilt over it, that hump becomes harder to quilt over. So, alright, so I'm going to take this over and press it, and then I'll show you. I'll be right back. I'm just over here pressing. I'm pressing from the back side first to lay these seams nice and flat where they stay where I want them. Just running the tip of the iron down that edge and then flipping it over. Here, I'll just turn you guys this way. Now I flipped. Oh yes, there is a project. I'll show you all that in a second. So I pressed the seam open real quick from the back side first and made sure, and I just used the tip of the iron to get it down all the way. And then I flip it over, and once it's down, it should be laying nice and flat. I'm just going to go over that seam, and you know it's flat when you can run your iron and it does that, you know it's not flat. So you want to make sure it's nice and flat. And now that I messed it up like that, and then I just take the iron and give it steam the rest of the way. And it's such a big block that obviously it's nicer to have a bigger ironing board, because as soon as I move it, there's going to be a hump from it hanging over the ironing board. So watch that. If you have a bigger ironing board, it's nice to pull it out for these bigger blocks. And I kind of just go over it just for a few seconds, the whole block twice, making sure that center is nice and flat. And then I'm going to come over here and turn this where you guys, so I can see as well. And I'm going to show you that center. That's as good as I'm going to get it. It's never perfect, and I don't really care. But technically you should see the point of every color, see them come together. So this one got folded in too much, but technically you're supposed to see the point, just like this, of every color come together. So this one got chopped off right there quite a bit, but the rest of them didn't. And you know, I don't mind, honestly. So here's that block. You see, it lays nice and flat. You can see that there's not a big hump, but if I would have pressed the seam, if I would have pressed this center, that's what it looks like pressed open, like so. This is what I mean by pressing your seam open for anybody that doesn't know. If I would have pressed it to one side and then tried to run my hand across it like this, it would be like a hump right here, and you would definitely feel it. Like this, I can go like this and it's fine. So that's how you know when you go to quilt it, that when your quilting end comes over it, it's not going to pull. I'm trying to purposely pull it, you know? When it's like being quilted, it will do that. It'll pull and hit like that. So you don't want that. You want it to lay as flat as possible, and that's as flat as it's going to get. So there we have it. And I'm not going to trim any of my blocks down, but for, you know, so that you know, I just take this and I come over here and I find my line right here, and I'm going to go and slice that there. Oops. And then I'm going to come to this side and slice that side, and then I'm going to come to this side, and then I'll measure my block and make sure it's right. But right now it is from here to here. It is 20 1/4 inches. So I will just trim the edges and it'll be a perfect 20-inch block. 20 1/4. The whole thing. 20 1/4. A little bit more than 20 1/4. So some of these will be trimmed down more than others, but there's my 20-inch block, which will be trimmed, and it won't even be a big deal. So let me pull the other ones back down so I can show you again. I hope you even saw everything that I was just doing, because I didn't realize my camera was twisted so far. So here's the other ones again. There's this one. They're all different, but they are all the same at the same time. It's kind of weird. And there's this one. Oops, and my pile over here is getting all wonky. And then that one that we just did. So you can see they're all in different spots. They're all different colors. Like this one has pink in it, but that one doesn't. And neither does this one. I kind of mixed up all my colors. So I'm going to lay these kind of on the floor, and I'll put my sashing with it so I can show you what it's going to look like. I'll just grab 3 pieces of sashing so you can see. My sashing is 1.5 inches. General idea. Let me just lay them down and I'll show you. So this is what it's generally going to look like. And there'll be cornerstones also. I'm not going to do my sashing straight across, but I am going to change the color of my sashing for every block, if that makes sense. Hold on. Let me throw this down here, and that way you can see. So that's technically what I'm doing here. So there'll be 4 across by 5 down with sashing, 1.5 inch, which would be 1 inch finished sashing through every single block. And then this will be a black cornerstone. And then around the whole entire edge will also be sashing, the first row of sashing, but every sashing strip on every piece is going to be a different color from the Batiks, because I have 40 strips of 20 different colors. Or no, there's 10 different colors, 2 of each piece, but they're scattered. You know Batiks, they're never the same. The cut is never the same. So this is what it'll be. 4 across by 5 down. Again, it's going to be enormous, like all my other quilts. And then I'm going to take all of the rest of the leftover 1.5 inch strips, because over there's the pile of these. There's going to be plenty for me to do something on the sides to widen it just a little bit. But it'll look pretty cool. Obviously with the black cornerstones, which will be a 1.5 inch square. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And while we're here, I will show you that. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to bring you guys right here so you can see. Remember when I did this? It's the square and a square and a square. Let me pick my blocks up, my sashing up. Oh my goodness. This is my square and square and square, just because for any child random baby quilt. I don't know if you guys remember me making this. This was my random baby quilt. I quilted it today. And I did all over the whole entire thing swirls because it's squares, so I needed something to, what's the word for it? To bring out the squares but hide the squares at the same time. So I did an all over swirl. So if it's sitting on the ground, it's this tall. So it's a kid's lap quilt. It could be an adult lap quilt too, because technically I'm 5'2", and my head's sticking out, so my feet are covered and it's still not completely off the ground. But this is it. I'll bring it up close so you can see the quilting. Let me see how well you can even see it. So you guys can see the swirls. Okay, so this is the front. And I have a thing for centering quilts. Don't know why, I just do. So that is the back. It's a yard of fabric with 3/4 of a yard going around it to complete it. Because this one is, I think, 58 by something. I don't remember, it's like 58 something, but here you can see the quilting better. I used a variegated cotton thread on this, and I can actually thank Michelle for that because I had to try to see how well it worked. And it worked just nice. It is very messy thread though, let me tell you. Super, super very messy. So it is all over swirls, and you can see the color change. I'm going to try to bring some other areas up so you can see. And then it looks like this in the blue section. So you can kind of see the color change. It's like a pale orange to a pale yellow to a pale red to a pale green, which was only fitting for this. So that's that. I just need to bind it, which I haven't chose a color. I don't think I have enough of this orange left. I have some of it, but I don't think I have enough to go all the way around, unfortunately. So now I need to choose a color that's either in the back, which I can bring the backing to the front, this blue, but it doesn't match this blue, so I wasn't going to use it. But I have other polka dot materials. I have actually this one might work. Yeah, that looks cool. It's green with yellow green with light green polka dots. So, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm not trying to make it boy or girl. I'm trying to make it gender neutral, so 100% gender neutral. So there's that. All right, let's turn this back over this way. Turn this back up. There we go. Anyway, let's see. Oops, sorry. 59. All right, guys, so look at that. So that's what I'm making 20 blocks of. 3 down. 3 down. I got more to go. So yeah, it's hard to see because of my camera, but if in person you can see the color. It's variegated thread. I'd have to go outside and get it because it's actually in my pile of thread that I use the big huge cones outside, these things. Sometimes I bring them in with the machine, but usually they're outside in a big huge container. So, because or else they just take up a lot of room in here. This is more like the fabric and piecing area. So once everything's out there quilting, that's where all the quilting related stuff stays. So. Anyways, okay, let me go up and see. I'm sorry you're in pain, Pamela. I didn't catch all of it. Oh, fall on your tailbone. So I'm sorry that happened. It sucks. Oh, and by the way, Happy New Year, everyone. I kind of said it when I showed you guys my customer quilt, but it wasn't really, that was just a quick video, obviously. So Happy New Year to everyone. Hopefully it's going good so far, and hopefully you guys can all keep to your New Year's resolutions. You know what mine is? It's to clean this mess up and finish a ton of quilts, because I have so many to do. So, let's see. So you guys were talking about that. And I need to put behind that. You like the system? I saw that. Wow, I didn't realize there were so many comments that I couldn't catch up. Okay, so now I'm caught up. If I didn't see any, then whatever. But, alright, so if you're on, please say howdy so I can see who's all here still. And then, should I go or should I make another block? Let me know. Let me know now, because the iron is still on. Should I go or make another block? Because I looked at the time, it had been an hour. So if you guys want, I'll stick around and make another block so that you guys can watch the process one more time. Except instead of me explaining it, you could just watch how I do it when I'm not talking the whole time. Make another one, Vicky. Make 20. You want me to do them all, Michelle? Alright, well you guys see what I do, obviously, when you're not watching me. I'm like that. I mean, I get all these quilts quilted. I got the other machine pulled out because I was doing other things. I'm like, you know, back and forth. So, time for more drugs in bed for me. Alright, Pamela, well, we'll see you. I'll be on tomorrow anyways. You guys know that. And it'll probably be something. I want to try to move away from this and do something else. So, I'm not sure just yet, but I have so many things going on. So many things. One of the things that we found on New Year's, and some of you know this, we have termites. That's right, termites. They have been eating at our floor. We thought we had water damage, and I think I've said it to you guys in my video before. We had some issues with we have hardwood, but it's not real hardwood. It's the linoleum or pressed. It's the fake hardwood stuff, and they're tongue and groove pieces that hook together, and it looks really nice. It makes the house look amazing, but we thought it was water damage. It was so bad, like it was just ruined all by our back patio and stuff. We thought we had a leak in the wall. So upon further inspection, after a couple people have came out and said this water damage, it's spreading weird. They thought it was water damage too. Finally, we just decided to pull the flooring up. And let me tell you, tongue and groove pieces are so hard to remove if you're not breaking it all out. If you're trying to salvage what you can. And let's just say we pulled it up and there were these bugs and there was no water and there's bugs and rotted hollow wood, like the trim that goes all the way around was hollow. It just crumpled when we took it off. So we got in the shower anyway I got in the shower to make sure Scott was watching on the other side of the wall. There was no water leaking. It was not water damage. But the bugs, we just figured were bugs because, you know, with wetness, there's bugs. But no, was no wetness. It's termites. So we have, well, not tomorrow, Sunday, but Monday they're coming out to drill the holes into the concrete because we are on a slab foundation. Yeah, they have to drill holes into the concrete around the whole entire wall. Our whole dining room is a disaster. The living room is a disaster. Yeah, the floor was ruined. We were able to salvage a couple pieces, but they're just going to be cut and reused when we start laying it out. But we have to go out and buy another box of flooring to replace all the shit we've ripped up. Oops, sorry. To replace all the stuff we've ripped up. So, good night, Pamela. So, I'm going to stick here. Now that you guys know I have termites and we're getting that done, I'm going to make another block. So I'm going to hang all three of these now. I'm going to line them up at least. And hang all these. nicely. And I'll make another one. You guys can just watch me do it, and I'll do it in how I would do it. Obviously, I'll still talk, but we'll do my speed. Again, the sizes I will tell you again in just a second. For those of you who are new to my channel and are following along and or want to follow along. Stay. Okay. Alright guys, so let's get another block. So I'm going to choose another pile. I have all my diamonds way over there on the ironing board, so out of my way. Sorry, I'm in front of the camera. Okay, so what we have again are 4.5-inch strips cut on. So they're cut on the 45-degree angle, which you can find. I'm going to just show you real quick again. You can find on any ruler. There's a 45. You just look for your 45. I don't even know where the screen. Okay, there's a screen. When your strip is right here, you would line that up along the bottom of your fabric, and then whatever size diamond you want. So this one's 4.5. You find that 4.5-inch line, and you slice it. And then you would go down the fabric further, keeping that 45-degree angle as you go, and your line now becomes the opposite end of your 45-degree angle. And or get a ruler that is a diamond. These, let's see how well, these right here is 7.5-inch square. Those are those ones that is top, bottom, side to side, not corners. These are 7.5-inch squares cut on the diagonal twice, 2 ways from corner to corner. These are 7-inch, so they're 7-inch and 7.5. The 7-inch ones are cut on the diagonal only one time, just once, and that's what's going to create this. So I'm going to lay this out real quick while you are right here next to me. There's one, there's two. And I don't want that one next to that one, so I'm going to put this one here. We'll put that one there. And that one there. I just love these colors. And there. Too many darks right there. Let's move this around. And let's move this around. I want the pink on this side. Right there. There we go. Again, all my stars are going to be different. So now that I have those, I'm going to kind of separate them just a little. That's how you know those come together in center. So we're going to grab the 7-inch squares, the ones that are cut on the diagonal, and they're going to go in just like so. 7-inch cut on the diagonal. You're pretty much just taking a 7-inch square and making sure that diagonal every time goes right here. Sorry if I'm in the way of the camera or every now and then. So that's how you know it's a 7-inch square on the diagonal. And then you're going to take the other ones, the 7.5-inch squares, and you're going to place them in like so. So pretty much the outside of the block is the side that goes against your piece. So here's the block right here. The outer sides, oops, stop. The outer piece of the block is the part that sits along the fabric like that. So this, if you were to put 2 more pieces here, it would become a square again right here. So that's how that goes. Oh, you can't even see. You can't even see what I'm talking about. Alright, so let's sew these together, and I'm going to do it my speed, okay? We could still chit-chat, obviously, but I'll do my normal speed as I go. Trying to make sure you can see the block and me. There we go. Stay. Okay. We're going to do my speed. Who's all still here? Alright, I'm just going to do my speed the way I would do it if I wasn't making a video. And I make sure that I cut all these off, though. That's one thing you do need to make sure. And I always put my piece back. Even when I'm alone, I actually always put my piece back where it goes. puddle almost fell off. Is it just you, Michelle and Vicky here? I forgot to look at the screen to see how many were watching. I'm always making sure that I have this. You guys got to remember, always have that little piece sticking out, 1/4 of an inch. That's how you always know that you're going to have a nice aligned piece. Linda Price, hello. I didn't even see you there this whole entire time. Train headed back home. Oh, you were with your family this whole entire time. That's cool. Oh, and don't forget that Monday is the drawing for the I Spy quilts, by the way, for the raffle. So don't forget about that. That's Monday. So if anybody wants to get in on it, the only way to do it now is through the GoFundMe account, because that's the only way I can get your entries in. It was $5 an entry, so if you want 1 ticket, it's 5, 2 tickets, it's 10. Just remember that. The I Spy quilt drawing is Monday, so the only way I can add names now is if it's in there. What kind of train are you on, Linda? I didn't know trains had a Wi-Fi or whatever to be able to watch videos. That's kind of awesome. And if you guys hear weird sounds, it's because it's actually raining outside, like I said in the beginning of the video. So the camera's kind of close to that, but I think the TV drowns out that sound a little bit more. Always remember that I have my piece sticking out, 1/4 of an inch. I don't tug or pull on anything, because that will just distort the block, because this is all unbiased. It's 100% biased, and I don't know like a way to not have biased seams when you're doing diamonds or working with angles like this, I guess, unless you're cutting the fabric on the diagonal when you're cutting it in the first place, I guess. But that would be super challenging, and I just try to keep things as easy as possible. This is definitely a great way to make large quilts, is making a bunch of 20-inch blocks. So in my normal speed here, guys, well, actually it'd probably be a lot faster normally than what I'm doing right now. I'm actually kind of slow right now. Oh, that was awkward to reach down there. Woo-wee. This way. Come on. Work with me. Work with me. No, it was going the right way. It was purposely trying to go the right way. So what did everybody do today since it's Saturday? Well, technically now it's Sunday, but what did everybody do for Saturday? Anybody have some fun, go to the movies, have a beer, drink some wine, I don't know, hang out with family, friends, watch movies all day, go out to eat? What did everybody do? And if you're not here and you're watching this video later, tell me in the comments below. What do you do on Saturdays? Or are you lazy like me and sit around the house between watching movies, watching kids, you quilt? Because that's pretty much what I do. Kids and quilting. And laziness, because I did watch movies today. Obviously children's movies with kids all day. But yeah. Nothing, Vicky. Why not? See how I always lay my piece back down? For me, it seems easier to keep track of my pieces when I lay them back in their spot. I have a movie on and there's men and women jumping in lingerie on a bed singing stupid songs. It's kind of funny. Forgot what I'm watching. I just like throwing stuff on in the background so that there's sound, dull out the sound of my sewing machine towards the other rooms. And I remember to nest my seams every time. And sometimes the end will get on a line, but that's okay. We still press everything in the end. tinkle. You told me about that, Vicki. That's a lot of chili, though. Definitely. Did you make cornbread to go with your chili? So I like cornbread to go with chili. I also like eating my chili with saltine crackers. I don't know why. I just do. Alright, this one gets pressed. Cheek. See, when your project's in front of you like this too, you can see which way things are pressed. It's a lot easier to see it so that you know you're going the right way. I can hear my son talking in the other room. This way. He's talking to his video game. And this one goes to the back. Again, you'll know that you have it nice and flat because you have a nice straight seam. That's how you know you're getting those 1/4 inches at the ends like you're supposed to. Making sure you have that hangover. That hangover is 100% noticeable if you mess up. Yep. Over like this. See my normal speed? Half the time. Just remember this is all by a seam, so this stretches as you're sewing too. Just got to remember that every time. Should be the right way. Yep, and that's correct. It goes this way. And then nest these 2 seams right here. They lay nice and flat. And then I come over here and I got to get that dog ear. Get that off. Nest this next seam. They should meet right up. If your 1/4 inch seam is consistent all the way through, then everything should meet right up. Once this is this way, let's see, that one's pressed that way, so this one gets pressed this way. And in this corner, I just use my finger to push that down, making sure it's nice and flat. And if you want, you can press right now, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to sew it together and then press. And again, I just hold the seam and I just nest a couple seams and then go down. Just making sure that they're aligned before I start sewing. Making sure it's nice and flat. And I use my finger just to hold the seams down. Right where I want it, I want to come in between that V that was created. Now I come right at it. Hopefully I didn't lose any points on this one, but we'll see. I don't always have it perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. At least not with me and my quick sewing. Before I go to the iron, I'm just going to lay this right here. I'm going to use my fingers to separate the seam. And I'm just going to use my finger to push that down right there. And I kind of just run my finger to open it up. I get it open before I go to the iron because it makes it so much easier when you're doing it on a flat surface as opposed to the iron surface, because the ironing board is not, it's squishy. So I just make sure it's open real quick right here. Obviously I'm making a mess of things right here. I can't get that seam open right there, even with my fingernails. There we go. He's playing with me. This fabric's toying with me. Alright, so I'm going to take it over to the iron. I'll be right back. And I'm just pressing it open using the tip of the iron first on the back side. Getting those seams to stay nice and open. Then I flip it over. Obviously you can't even see what I'm doing, so let me turn it this way. There we go. Flip it over. And some seam along that seam. And then make sure all of it's pressed nice. Making sure all the seams are going the way that they were supposed to go without stretching anything. And like I said, the sucky part about these ironing boards is it's not as big as this block, so it leaves a bump when I come back this way. And I just go over it a bazillion times. I kind of go with the direction of the straight of grain, which would be this way and this way. It's kind of crooked because this is, you can see it though, the grain in the batiks at least. Okay, and here we have another block. So let me turn the camera, and there is another block right there. So let me hold it up so you can see. These points are all sticking out. You're seeing all of them. That's pretty much what you're supposed to see. So this one right here is, this one right there is kind of lost just a little bit. The rest of them, you can see all the corners, which is what you're supposed to see. So there is number 4. And it lays nice and flat. My hand goes over it nicely. Obviously it's picking up more little pieces of thread, but that is it. Let me tip this up just a smidge. There. Sorry about that. Alright guys, so that was probably 128. Yep, that was a little bit less than 30 minutes because I chit-chatted for a second. So yeah, that's my normal speed. So about 25 minutes a block is my normal speed for 20 blocks. I could do it all in one day. I can. It's just I have lots of things going on. So, alright guys, I hope you enjoyed watching me make an 8-pointed star on a 20-inch block using inch 45-degree diamond. They're 4.5-inch strips turned into 45-degree diamonds. These corners, the 4 corners, remember that, 4 corners on this specific block. These are 7-inch blocks cut on the diagonal 1 time. The top, bottom, side to side are 7.5-inch squares cut on the diagonal both ways. And then they're laid in the top, bottom, side to side, and then 4 corners get the 7-inch. So 7.5-inch for the top, bottom, side to side, and 7-inch for the 4 corners. 1 cut for 4 corners, which is diagonal. 2 cuts, both diagonals, for the top, bottom, and side to side. And there you have it. That's what makes this specific 20-inch block for making a big thing. And those rolls come in handy, but you can use yardage if you have yardage. And I'm sure this would actually look pretty cool if it was black, white, black, white, black, white with a pop color, like, you know, on the side, or red and green for Christmas. or you know, anything. Sky is the limit with these. I chose Batiks because Batiks really pop with the black background. I don't know what it is. White background just doesn't help, but black background in Batiks always looks amazing. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me make the 8-pointed star 20-inch block. I've made an 8-pointed star before, but I think it was a 10-inch block. I'm not sure. It was something. You'd have to look back in my videos. But I know the formula of making this in any size. So if you want to do, although it's hard to do these, you can make a really huge, I can make up to the size of my ruler at least for the diamonds. So I could probably put a 10-inch diamond, but that's just a waste of fabric. I can make them strippy diamonds, straight diamonds, anything. I have the formula to do this every time. So however big you want it, these can be strips, you know. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, ask in the comments below or email me, and I can help you out, or Facebook or Instagram me. They're all to get a hold of me. So if anybody wants to make it. So I hope you enjoy. For those of you who are new and like my videos, don't forget to subscribe below and hit the little bell so that you guys can get notifications when I'm on. Other than that, I'm going to let everyone get to bed because, well, it's 12:45 for me, and I'm going to go have a smoke and then lay in bed and fall asleep, hopefully. All right. Talk to you all later. Hope everyone has a great sleep. Bye-bye.